The newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. President Duterte says he will run as vice president to gain legal immunity from any lawsuits after critics threatened to bring him to court. Here to tell us if the president's statement makes sense from a legal perspective, we have FEU Institute of Law Dean Attorney Mel Santamaria. Good morning, Dean Mel.
Good morning, Riza.
Dean, let's go straight to the point. Is it possible for President Duterte to escape liability for a case against him if ever he runs and wins vice presidential race in 2022?
There is no legal basis for immunity for a vice president of the Republic. Unlike the president who is immune from suit, a vice president is not, simply because the functions of the two differ from each other. The president is the chief executive of the land. He is the commander-in-chief. He is the chief foreign policy maker of the Philippines and the head of the security PNP component of the Republic. So as you see, a president's job, he is so busy that he cannot be disturbed by any civil or criminal suit during his term. Otherwise, it might derail the activity of his functions. The vice president, however, as we all know, Riza, sometimes he or she is called the spare tire. The principal objective is to wait for the assumption to a higher office, which is the presidency. She is not even a cabinet member unless the president designates him or her as such. So the only thing she can do is to create for herself certain activities to be able to serve the public. Otherwise, she's just waiting to assume office should the president resigns or become incapacitated. That is the reason why a vice president is not immune from suit. There you are, Risa.
Okay, Attorney, should this happen, let's say President Duterte and his daughter, Mayor Inday Sara, would run for the 2022 polls as president and vice president, are there obstacles in that?
Well, it's really this issue is really very tricky, and it's a slippery slope. Remember, an incumbent president cannot run for the presidency for a second term. The Constitution provides that the vice president and the president shall assume office at a certain point in time. And thereafter, the constitutional provision says that the president cannot run for any office. All right? He cannot run for any other term. So the word any in the Constitution seems to be undefined. So some authorities would say that any refers to both president and vice president. And some authorities would say that any refers only to re-election of the president. So there is an ambiguity in the Constitution. But when you talk about any ambiguity of the Constitution, the rule is you have to look at the spirit of the Constitution. Clearly, the spirit of the Constitution says that an incumbent president cannot, at a later point in time, assume an institutional office that might affect the decision of an incumbent president. That's the spirit of the law. So if that is so, then even in the position of vice president, a president cannot run for the same. But you know, it might reach the Supreme Court because the Constitution is ambiguous or vague on that part. I'll just say something, Riza, okay, about why the vice president is not immune from suit. Remember, in July 2019, Vice President Leni Robredo was charged of sedition, inciting to sedition, cyber libel, estafa, harboring a criminal, and obstruction of justice. That is a fact. That happened in July 2019, and it was just fortunate that it was dismissed because the vice president faced all those charges. she had to be inconvenienced and faced all those charges, and eventually it was dismissed. So during this period, it actually happened already that a vice president, Lenny Robredo, was charged not one, two, or three charges, but about seven criminal charges. So I don't see where this is coming from. No? And I don't think it's even an issue. But the Constitution is clear that there is no immunity of a vice president.
Well, me neither, Dean. And besides, we don't even know if the president is actually being serious or was he joking when he delivered that speech. But what if, okay, Dean, he does run and win as vice president, but he ends up having to step up as president for valid reasons? Wouldn't this be a loophole or a way to actually extend his term as president?
That's the point, Risa. That's a very, very good question. No? Actually, that is a probability which can truly happen. Can truly happen, and that circumvents the prohibition on the president having a second term. Remember, the idea of the Constitution is that if you are the president now and you cannot run again, why is that so? Because you should not be allowed to affect the running of the government institutionally or officially in whatever capacity. So if that happens, especially the capacity again of a president, so what you cannot do directly, you cannot do indirectly. That is circumvention. I believe so. But anyway, probably this will reach the Supreme Court if indeed the president files his application for candidacy for vice president.
Well, truly an interesting topic, and it's always delightful talking to you, Attorney Mel. Too bad we are running out of time, but thank you very much. That's Attorney Mel Santamaria. Meanwhile, the Health Department maintains that the Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine still offers great protection against variants. In yesterday's Laging Handa briefing, Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere allayed public concerns regarding Sinovac's efficacy. Vergere stressed that the Chinese-made jabs were able to prove its efficacy against severe infection, hospitalization, and deaths. This came after Malaysia's health ministry announced that the country will stop administering the Sinovac jab once its supplies run out. The same goes for Thailand, which says it will use AstraZeneca as a second shot for those who received Sinovac as their first shot. This after 600 Thai medical workers contracted the virus despite being fully vaccinated by Sinovac.
Kailangan pong maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan na lumabas na po ang mga real-world effectiveness ng bakuna at pinakita naman na ito pong mga bakunang ginagamit natin dito sa ating bansa, the most commonly used, ay talagang nagpakita ng effectiveness against severe infections and hospitalization and deaths. Tayo po ay naninindigan na ito pong bakunang ginagamit natin ngayon ay makakaprotekta sa atin, especially na ngayon na may variants, kailangan lang ho natin lahat magpabakuna with 2 doses.
The 2 local cases of the Delta variant in Antique were unvaccinated senior citizens. According to health officers in Western Visayas, the 2 cases were a 78-year-old woman and a 79-year-old man. Both have no history of foreign travel and neither had received any vaccine against COVID-19. Meanwhile, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere says they are now looking into expanding travel restrictions to prevent more Delta cases from coming in the country. She adds that there are also strict border controls even in seaports in Sulu and Tawi-Tawi, which is near Malaysia, which had a spike of cases in Delta variant. Now, despite these precautions, the officials said the health system must be ready for a Delta outbreak scenario. This means the number of hospital beds must be increased and the inventory of oxygen supply must be monitored along with drugs and other hospital supplies.
We should do inventories of our oxygen supply. We should pre-position logistics already like drugs and other supplies na kakailanganin po ng ating mga ospital para lahat po tayo ay handa.
Metro Manila mayors are set to review the policy allowing children aged 5 and up to go outdoors. MMDA Chairman Edgard Arevalo told the chiefs that all 17 mayors will revisit this policy due to detection of local transmission of the Delta variant. Arevalo added that their decisions will be based on the guidance of health experts.
We will really have to review about these 5 years old. We will really have to seek the guidance of the experts dahil maski sabihin natin iilan lang yan, iisa o dalawa or what, if the threat is really real in here, considering yung ibang klase itong Delta variant, no? I mean, we will have to hear their side. Kinakailangan ba? Kung kinakailangan, I'm sorry, but we have to do it. Talagang ihinto muna namin siguro itong sa mga 5 years.
A labor group is calling on the government and on business owners to subject workers to random swab testing to know the extent of COVID-19 infections among the A4 population. In a statement, the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, said these swab tests are vital to the detection and control of COVID-19 among the A4 priority group, especially now that the Philippines has detected at least 11 local cases of the more transmissible Delta variant. They added that the country's testing capacity should be ramped up, but cautioned against a knee-jerk lockdown of whole cities as more Delta cases emerge. A CCTV footage shows exactly what happened on July 14 when a lawyer of the poor and her husband were gunned down just outside their home in Davao City. Gemma Vansenya with the story.
In this CCTV footage, lawyer Hilda Mahinay Sapie could be seen going outside their house, looking at their neighbor's newly painted car. After a few seconds, the lawyer fell on her knees. She was shot at her back. The people around her panicked and immediately asked for help. Her husband, Muhaymen Muhammad, approached, trying to comfort his dying wife. While hugging the victim, another shot fired and the husband collapsed to the ground too. The video was captured outside the Sapie family's residence in a high-end subdivision in Davao City last Wednesday. The victim's daughter, alias Ganggang, said it's hard to lose both her parents. She shared that although they never talked about receiving death threats, they always remind the family to be cautious all the time.
Nahihirapan kami kasi hindi namin matanggap na gano'n ang nangyari sa kanila, na wala silang kalaban-laban, na pinatay po.
The first victim and family matriarch Hilda is known to be an abogado sa kabus, or a lawyer of the poor. She also took part in a daily radio program called Justice Redeemers, where they addresses issues concerning land disputes and other similar cases. Most of her clients are farmers, thus many of them are very disheartened on what happened.
Sakit para sa mga tanan.
Masakit para sa aming lahat. Parang iniwan kami mga CARP beneficiaries na naghahanap ng hustisya at katotohanan.
Subo. Kayo pala.
Napakasakit para sa aming mga beneficiary ng EdFarm ko kasi imbes na makukuha na sana namin yung tagumpay kasama mga bugado namin. Parang biglang namatay rin. Pero di kami pinanghihinaan kasi sinabi niya sa amin na dapat maging matapang.
Initial investigation revealed that the couple survived an ambush last year in Bukidnon. The husband was also found to have been facing a case for identifying himself as a congressman and a media man to evade traffic violations. Police Colonel Kirby John Kraft said they already have leads in the case.
Lumalabas si lawyering for sa mga tenants, squatters, sa mga may land disputes. So another is yung accordingly yung tinake over nila yung board of directors doon sa homeowners associations.
The police is also investigating how a hitman was able to enter the gated subdivision.
Base doon sa nakita na mahigpit yung security nila doon. So bago ka makapasok, kailangan i-surrender mo yung ID mo kung hindi ka taga-loob ng subdivision. At paglabas mo naman, so surrender mo yung ID nila, ibabalik nila yung ID mo. Ang naging lapses lang doon, walang documentation. Kasi yung mga pumapasok, hindi pala nila naisulat kung sino at anong sasakyan. Basta surrender lang ID, walang nangyaring documentation. So wala tayong record.
The Sapie family hopes justice will be served for their parents' deaths. For News 5, Gemma Vansenya, we are One News.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.